Today we will explore the life and legacy of Alfred Nobel, a man whose inventions shaped the modern world and whose vision created one of the most respected systems of recognition for human achievement. Born in 1833, Nobel's life was a journey of curiosity, innovation, and reflection, filled with both remarkable discoveries and personal challenges. From his early experiments with explosives to the creation of dynamite, he witnessed the immense power of knowledge, both to build and to destroy. Over time, he came to understand that true progress requires responsibility and foresight. His experiences inspired him to leave a legacy that would honor those who advance science, literature, and peace, encouraging future generations to use knowledge wisely. Today we will follow the story of Alfred Nobel, from his early years to the lasting impact of the prizes that bear his name. Let's begin. Alfred Nobel was born on October 21st, 1833 in Stockholm, at a time when Europe was shifting from old traditions to new forces driven by industry, invention, and expanding global trade. His early life unfolded in a household filled with uncertainty, but also ambition. His father, an engineer with restless ideas, moved the family between successes and failures, yet he never stopped searching for opportunities. When Alfred was still a child, the family relocated to Russia, where his father hoped to build a stronger career by producing equipment for the military and for large construction projects. In St. Petersburg, Alfred grew up among workshop sounds, piles of metal parts, and detailed sketches spread over tables. These surroundings shaped his curiosity more than formal school lessons ever did. He discovered a deep interest in chemistry and physics, spending long hours reading, testing small experiments, and watching the workers who turned rough materials into precise tools. The family home often felt more like a laboratory than a living space, but Alfred welcomed the environment. It suited his need for quiet thinking and practical observation. He learned several languages as a teenager, believing that ideas flowed more freely when one understood different cultures. Literature fascinated him as much as science did, and he often combined both interests by studying authors who wrote about human nature, progress, and responsibility. These early readings later influenced the principles he wished to support in others. He believed that knowledge gained power only when it helped society grow wiser, not just stronger. When economic difficulties struck his father's business, Alfred returned to Sweden. The move changed his path forever. In Stockholm, he focused intensely on experiments with explosives, particularly nitroglycerin, a substance that could either lift industries to new heights or destroy everything in an instant. Its power drew him in, but its unpredictability left him uneasy. Accidents were frequent, and each failure reminded him of the thin line between innovation and disaster. One accident was especially tragic. It claimed the life of his younger brother, a loss that carved a permanent scar in Alfred's memory. The event pushed him towards safer methods, guiding him to search for ways to control explosive force instead of simply releasing it. Through repeated trials, he eventually discovered how to stabilize nitroglycerin by mixing it with an absorbent material. The result, later called dynamite, changed tunneling, mining, and construction across the world. Though the invention brought him wealth and recognition, it also carried a weight he could never ignore. As industry celebrated dynamite, newspapers began shaping a darker image of Alfred, suggesting that he profited from danger and conflict. The criticism deeply troubled him. He had intended to support progress, not destruction. This tension stayed with him, growing stronger each time he read reports of new conflicts where explosives played a part. He felt responsible not for the choices others made, but for the power his inventions allowed them to wield. Despite his growing fame, Alfred lived a life marked by solitude. He moved between countries, working in laboratories, drafting new ideas, and observing the world with quiet distance. He often felt misunderstood, yet he rarely stopped thinking about how to use his influence in a way that aligned with his moral beliefs. He valued peace, knowledge, and human improvement more than any financial gain his inventions brought him. As the years passed, his reflections deepened. He saw how society rewarded scientists, writers, and peacemakers far less than it rewarded soldiers or industrialists. The imbalance disturbed him. He became determined to create something that could encourage humanity to admire intellectual courage, compassion, and discovery. The thought was still forming, but the foundation of his future legacy had begun to solidify, an idea that would one day reshape how the world honored remarkable contributions to science, literature, and peace. As Alfred Nobel continued his work, the world around him grew noisier with rapid industrial growth. Railways stretched across continents, and factories lit the sky with smoke that announced a new mechanical age. His inventions helped shape this transformation, allowing tunnels to cut through mountains and bridges to rise across deep valleys. Yet he watched all this progress with a complicated mix of pride and concern. He understood that every tool powerful enough to build could also be used to destroy, and this awareness followed him wherever he traveled. He spent much of his adulthood moving between laboratories in Sweden, France, Italy, and other parts of Europe. Instead of forming a single home, he created a life built on constant movement. Each new location offered space to experiment and think, but none of them gave him the sense of belonging he quietly hoped for. His days were structured around research, writing, and careful observation of scientific developments. He studied the work of chemists, physicians, and inventors with great attention, tried to stay connected to the wider scientific community, even though he often remained physically isolated from it. Despite his success, Alfred rarely felt satisfied. Inside him grew a strong desire to direct his wealth towards something more lasting than factories or patents. He believed that the value of a life was not measured by the amount of money one earned, but by the impact one left behind. He could not change the fact that dynamite had become deeply linked with war, but he believed he could influence how future generations use knowledge and creativity. He wanted to reward people who push humanity forward in ways that help society grow wiser and more peaceful. During this time, Alfred's health began to decline. He suffered from heart problems, recurring pain, and long periods of exhaustion. The pressure of managing factories and laboratories added to his struggles. Even so, he continued working because he feared leaving the world without creating something that reflected his true intentions. He often wrote notes to himself about responsibility, progress, and moral duty. These private reflections revealed a man still searching for meaning, still trying to understand how his life's work could fit into a broader vision of human advancement. His thoughts were influenced by news articles, scientific journals, and philosophical texts he read late at night. He noticed how many discoveries remained overlooked because society focused more on conflict than on understanding. Medicine, physics, and literature were reshaping how people lived and thought, yet few institutions celebrated these achievements on a global scale. This imbalance troubled him deeply. He wished for a way to highlight the efforts of individuals whose work brought hope, healing, or clarity to others. As his reflective nature grew stronger, he began planning more intentionally. He studied ideas about awards, foundations, and charitable structures. He considered how to ensure fairness across nations and disciplines. He thought about the qualities that defined exceptional work: creativity, courage, and a spirit that served humanity rather than personal ambition. These values gradually formed the backbone of the idea he was building. At the same time, he felt increasingly aware of how the world viewed him. Rumors and negative headlines occasionally reached his home, painting him as someone who profited from war. The words troubled him, not because they damaged his reputation, but because they contradicted what he believed life should honor. He wanted his legacy to represent peace and progress, not fear and destruction. This personal struggle pushed him to think more boldly about the future. The turning point came when he reflected on how easily history could misrepresent a person's intentions. He understood that once he died, he would have no voice left to explain his motives. This realization filled him with urgency. If he wanted to shape how the world remembered him, and more importantly, if he wanted to encourage the values he believed in, He needed to act while he still had time. The idea that had been growing within him for years began to take clearer shape, forming the foundation for a legacy that would reach far beyond his own lifetime. The more Alfred Nobel considered the direction of his life, the more determined he became to shape a lasting contribution. He knew that his inventions had changed the modern world. Yet he also understood how easily progress could be misused. His journals from these years show a deep struggle between achievement and accountability. He wanted to encourage a future where knowledge was applied with care, and where the people who advanced science, literature, and peace received the recognition they deserved. This growing belief guided him through his final years of planning. He spent long evenings drafting ideas about a series of international awards. At first, the concept felt almost too ambitious. He knew that nations often disagreed, and that human nature tended to favor rivalry over cooperation. But he still believed in the possibility of uniting people through shared respect for discovery and human improvement. He worked on identifying fields that shaped the world in powerful and constructive ways. Physics and chemistry were natural choices because they laid the foundations for scientific progress. Medicine followed because it touched every family and offered hope against suffering. Literature held a special place for him, since he always felt that words could open minds and inspire reflection. The idea of a prize for peace came from his desire to balance the impact of his own inventions. He wanted to support those who sought harmony, diplomacy, and understanding between nations. To him, peace was not the absence of conflict, but an achievement built through effort, courage, and patience. He believed that honoring such work could encourage others to follow the same path. This belief became one of the most important pillars of his vision. While shaping his plan, Alfred faced doubts about how future generations would interpret his decisions. He knew that once he set his instructions on paper, they would guide the work long after he was gone. For this reason, he wrote with great care, choosing words that expressed fairness and clarity. He wanted the awards to remain open to people from all countries, without discrimination. He thought deeply about how winners should be selected, imagining committees that acted with integrity and independence. During these preparations, his health weakened further. His days became slower, and his energy faded more quickly. Even so, he remained committed to finishing the work that would define his legacy. He continued reading, researching, and writing, determined to complete the document that held his vision for the future. Each sentence he added brought him closer to the moment when his intentions would be secured in a clear and lasting form. When he looked back on his early years, he saw how the path of his life had been shaped by both creation and loss. He remembered the workshops of his childhood, the long studies in chemistry, the tragic accident that changed his family, and the many journeys he made across Europe in search of knowledge and purpose. All these experiences formed the foundation of his final decision. They reminded him that progress could never be separated from responsibility, and that those who worked to improve the human condition deserved honor beyond temporary recognition. As he approached the last stage of his life, Alfred felt a quiet resolve. He understood that his influence could continue long after his inventions had become ordinary tools of industry. Through carefully designed awards, he could guide the world toward admiration for discovery, compassion, and wisdom. The legacy he envisioned was not meant to erase his past, but to allow others to build a future where knowledge served humanity with greater intention. When Alfred Nobel finally completed the document that described his wishes, he felt a mixture of relief and uncertainty. The text outlined the creation of annual prizes for physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. It directed that most of his fortune should support these awards, allowing future generations to benefit from the resources he had earned over a lifetime of effort. He wrote with confidence, yet he understood how unusual his instructions were. Few people use their wealth for an international purpose of this scale, and he suspected that not everyone would immediately support his decision. After signing the document, Alfred continued living quietly, dividing his days between reading, scientific reflection, and correspondence. His health remained fragile, but his mind stayed active. He observed scientific developments with the same curiosity he had shown in his youth, even when he felt physically weak. He found comfort in the idea that his plan for the prizes would encourage people who sought to improve knowledge and understanding. He believed that society needed strong examples of intellectual dedication, especially during a time when nations struggled with political tension and rapid industrial change. Alfred spent his final months in Italy, where he hoped the mild climate would ease his symptoms. The atmosphere there was calmer than in the bustling cities he had lived in previously. Surrounded by quiet landscapes, he continued refining personal notes and reflecting on the decisions he had made. Although he rarely shared his thoughts openly, he felt certain that the prizes would inspire progress in ways he could not fully imagine. He trusted that the fields he selected would remain essential to human development for generations. When he passed away in December 1896, news of his death spread quickly. Many people remembered him mainly as the inventor of dynamite, and few knew about the will he had prepared. The document surprised both the public and his family. Some found it difficult to accept that such a large fortune was dedicated to awards rather than to private inheritances. Questions arose about how the prizes would be organized, who would manage them, and whether the plan could even be carried out. The scale of his instructions created confusion, and debates began almost immediately. Legal challenges soon followed, as relatives and officials tried to understand the practical details of his wishes. The idea of international prizes funded by a personal fortune seemed strange to many. Some argued that it would be difficult to select winners from around the world, while others believed it was unrealistic to expect different committees to work together fairly. There were also concerns about whether organizations in Sweden and Norway could manage the responsibilities outlined in the will. The project appeared ambitious, and some feared it would never be implemented as Alfred intended. Despite these complications, a small group of determined individuals worked to defend the plan. They studied the will carefully, held meetings with officials, and searched for ways to turn Alfred's ideas into reality. Their efforts required patience, negotiation, and a strong belief in the value of his vision. Slowly, progress began to take shape. Key institutions agreed to take responsibility for selecting prize recipients, and systems were created to evaluate achievements in each field. Although the early discussions were difficult, the core of Alfred's idea remained strong. The people who supported the plan understood that he wanted to honor those who used knowledge for the benefit of humanity. They recognized his decision came from a lifetime of reflection, shaped by both scientific success and personal sorrow. By defending his wishes, they helped ensure that his legacy could begin to grow into something larger than the challenges surrounding its creation. As the committees prepared to launch the first awards, they faced the challenge of creating selection processes that reflected Alfred Nobel's intentions. They needed to establish clear criteria, gather experts, and design methods that would remain fair for many years. The task was demanding, but those involved believed that the prizes could become a symbol of respect for human progress. Step by step, they built a system that balanced scientific judgment, cultural understanding, and international cooperation. Their dedication helped turn a complex document into a functioning institution. When the first prizes were finally awarded in 1901, the event marked a new chapter in global recognition. The ceremony brought together scholars, writers, and supporters of peace from different countries. For the first time, achievements in science, literature, and humanitarian efforts were honored on an international stage, guided by the principles Alfred Nobel had set. The moment carried a sense of hope and reflection. It showed that people from diverse backgrounds could unite around the shared belief that knowledge and compassion deserved celebration. The early years of the prizes were a period of learning. Committees refined their methods, explored new ways to evaluate work, and discussed how to adapt to a rapidly changing world. Nations grew more interested in the awards as their importance became clear. Scientists viewed them as a sign that society valued research that expanded understanding of nature and technology. Writers appreciated the recognition of literature as a force that shaped culture and encouraged deeper thought. Supporters of peace saw the prize as a meaningful reminder that cooperation and dialogue remained essential. Over time, the Nobel Prizes began to influence how people understood excellence. Winning one was not only a personal honor, but also a message to the world about the importance of intellectual and humanitarian contributions. The prizes encouraged countries to invest more in science and education. They inspired young people to pursue research, writing, or peace work with greater dedication. They also created discussions about ethics, responsibility, and the role of innovation in society. Although not every decision pleased everyone, the awards consistently encouraged thoughtful debate. As the 20th century progressed, the world experienced both remarkable discoveries and devastating conflicts. The Nobel Prizes reflected these changes, highlighting individuals who opened new paths in medicine, uncovered fundamental principles in physics, or wrote stories that captured the human experience. Each award added to the growing history of the institution, showing how Alfred Nobel's vision continued to adapt to global developments. The people who received the prizes came from different cultures, political systems, and academic traditions, demonstrating the international spirit written into the will. The Peace Prize held particular significance during times of crisis. It reminded nations that even in periods of tension, negotiation and understanding remained possible. It encouraged leaders, activists, and organizations to continue working for stability and justice. Although peace was often difficult to achieve, the prize kept the idea alive in public consciousness, strengthening the belief that dialogue could shape a better future. Through these decades, the Nobel Foundation established traditions that became part of global culture. Ceremonies, lectures, and public discussions helped scientists and writers share their work with wider audiences. Libraries, classrooms, and research institutions use these contributions to inspire new generations. The influence of the prizes reached far beyond the winners themselves, touching people who might never meet them but who learned from their achievements. By the time the prizes became a well-established annual event, it was clear that Alfred Nobel's decision had created something far more powerful than he could have predicted. His personal reflections had grown into a worldwide recognition of excellence, guiding conversations about progress, responsibility, and the values that shape humanity's future. As the Nobel Prizes entered the mid-20th century, the world continued to undergo dramatic changes. Scientific understanding expanded at a rapid pace, and new disciplines emerged that Alfred Nobel himself could not have imagined. Researchers made discoveries that reshaped medicine, unlocked new knowledge about the universe, and introduced technologies that transformed everyday life. Through these developments, the prizes remained a constant reminder that progress gained meaning when it served humanity with integrity. The committees faced increasing responsibility as they evaluated work across fields that were becoming more complex each year. They had to study new theories, understand advanced methods, and consult leading experts to ensure that their decisions reflected the highest standards. Their efforts strengthened the international respect for prizes, which became known for valuing accuracy, originality, and long-term impact. People around the world followed the announcements with growing interest, recognizing how each award captured a moment of human advancement. The Literature Prize developed its own significance during this period. Writers from different regions brought attention to cultures, histories, and perspectives that had been overlooked. Their stories encouraged readers to think more deeply about identity, conflict, and to share experiences that connect generations. The prize helped expand the global conversation on how storytelling influences understanding, offering recognition to authors whose works invited reflection and empathy. It reminded the world that imagination and language had the power to shape social awareness. The Peace Prize also gained visibility as nations faced new political divisions and social challenges. The award encouraged organizations and leaders who work to prevent violence, protect human rights, and build bridges across ideological barriers. Some recipients shaped international diplomacy, while others led community efforts that strengthened local stability. The prize drew attention to the idea that peace was not a distant dream, but a continuous process supported by cooperation and moral commitment. Even in difficult times, it inspired hope by highlighting people who work toward reconciliation. Meanwhile, scientific prizes for physics, chemistry, and medicine continue to honor discoveries that change the understanding of life and nature. Some recipients revealed the structures within cells, while others explored the forces that shape the universe. New technologies emerge from these discoveries, influencing industries, healthcare, and communication. The awards encourage young researchers to challenge assumptions and explore unanswered questions. They became symbols of perseverance, reminding the world that curiosity and disciplined work could open new paths to knowledge. As society entered an era of global communication, the Nobel Prizes reached wider audiences than ever before. Newspapers, radio stations, and later television brought the announcements to homes around the world. Schools used the stories of laureates as examples of dedication and innovation. Universities invited winners to share their insights, allowing students to learn directly from those who had shaped major breakthroughs. The prizes became more than awards. They became educational tools that inspired future generations. Throughout these years, the Nobel Foundation continued to protect the principles expressed in Alfred Nobel's will. It preserved independence in decision-making, promoted transparency, and encouraged international cooperation. The foundation also adapted to new scientific and cultural realities while remaining faithful to its original mission. It maintained the belief that the most meaningful achievements were those that improved quality of life, expanded understanding, or strengthened peace. By the end of the century, the legacy Alfred Nobel created had grown far beyond the controversies and challenges that surrounded its early years. His vision had matured into a tradition that connected nations through shared respect for human creativity and responsibility. The prizes stood as a reminder that even in a world marked by rapid change, the pursuit of knowledge and peace remained essential guides for shaping a hopeful future. The influence of Nobel Prizes expanded further as the 21st century approached. Scientific fields became increasingly specialized, and new challenges emerged, including environmental crises, technological transformations, and global health issues. Despite these complexities, the awards continue to highlight achievements that address fundamental questions and contributed to the well-being of humanity. Recipients were recognized not only for technical skill, but also for their dedication to solving problems with ethical awareness and foresight. In medicine, researchers developed treatments that transformed life expectancy and quality of life for millions. Breakthroughs in genetics, immunology, and neuroscience changed how diseases were understood and treated. The recognition provided by the Nobel Prize inspired teams around the world to pursue solutions to previously unsolvable problems. It showed that dedication to rigorous study, careful experimentation, and persistence could produce results that touched countless lives. Physics and chemistry continued to reveal the unseen structures of matter and energy. Discoveries in particle physics, quantum mechanics, and material science led to technologies that reshaped communication, transportation, and industry. Each award highlighted the interplay between imagination and precision, showing that scientific inquiry was a process requiring both creativity and discipline. The recognition of these achievements encouraged collaboration across borders, fostering an international community of scholars committed to exploring the unknown. The Literature Prize evolved as well, reflecting changes in the way stories were shared and interpreted. Writers explored the impact of globalization, migration, and identity, offering readers new ways to understand themselves and the wider world. Their works crossed cultural and linguistic boundaries, emphasizing common human experiences and moral questions. The The prize affirmed that literature could influence society by fostering empathy, reflection, and insight into human nature. The Peace Prize remained a guiding symbol amid conflicts and global tensions. It honored individuals and organizations working to reduce violence, protect human rights, and mediate disagreements between nations. Recipients demonstrated that peace was not an abstract concept but a practical, ongoing effort requiring courage and perseverance. The prize inspired dialogue, strengthened civil society, and encouraged leaders to consider diplomacy and negotiation as tools of progress. Through all these developments, the Nobel Prizes maintained a balance between tradition and adaptation. The committees refined their approaches to remain impartial and thorough, even as the world changed rapidly. They faced challenges in understanding emerging disciplines, evaluating contributions from diverse cultures, and ensuring that their decisions reflected both excellence and relevance. Yet they upheld Alfred Nobel's vision of celebrating achievements that genuinely benefited humanity. By the early 21st century, Alfred Nobel's legacy had become deeply embedded in global culture. His prizes shaped public perception of excellence, morality, and responsibility. They encouraged generations to pursue knowledge, creativity, and peace, reinforcing the idea that a life devoted to understanding and service could leave an enduring mark. What had begun as a will of a solitary inventor had grown into a worldwide institution, inspiring ambition, integrity, and hope. The legacy also served as a reminder of the complex relationship between invention and responsibility. Nobel's life showed that technological and scientific advancements could carry both promise and danger. His decision to create a system that honored positive contributions reflected his understanding that knowledge alone was not enough. It required moral direction. The prizes continue to embody this principle, guiding humanity toward progress shaped by wisdom and compassion. Today, the Nobel Prizes stand as a testament to Alfred Nobel's vision and the enduring power of thoughtful legacy. More than a century after his death, the awards continue to recognize those whose work advances human understanding, strengthens peace, and inspires ethical responsibility. Scientists, writers, and peacemakers from all regions of the world are reminded that their efforts can have profound effects beyond immediate results, influencing generations yet to come. The prizes have also become a reflection of global collaboration. International committees evaluate accomplishments across cultures, languages, and disciplines, highlighting the interconnectedness of modern society. The recognition encourages dialogue and exchange of ideas between nations, fostering relationships that contribute to progress, education, and mutual respect. Nobel's vision anticipated a world where shared admiration for knowledge and humanity could unite people despite differences. Institutions around the world, including universities, research centers, and cultural organizations, build upon the achievements honored by the prizes. Scientific discoveries inspire new investigations, literary works prompt reflection and discussion, and peace initiatives encourage continued diplomacy and reconciliation. The influence of each laureate extends far beyond their personal recognition, shaping education, policy, and public awareness. Alfred Nobel's own life story remains inseparable from the awards. His early curiosity, careful experimentation, and awareness of the moral consequences of invention remind the world that progress carries responsibility. The tragic accident that claimed his brother's life and the criticism he faced for his inventions shaped his desire to create a legacy that celebrated knowledge applied wisely and compassionately. In this way, the prizes are both a reflection of human achievement and a lesson in conscience. The Nobel Prizes also demonstrate the importance of long-term thinking. Nobel himself knew that the impact of his fortune and vision would unfold over decades. The careful planning and persistence required to implement his will illustrate how enduring contributions often emerge from patience, reflection, and foresight. His legacy encourages society to value sustained effort, thoughtful guidance, and dedication to causes that elevate humanity. Each year, as new laureates are announced, the world is reminded of the standards Alfred Nobel set: courage and discovery, commitment to truth, and service to humanity. The ceremonies and publications associated with the prizes provide moments of reflection, showing how knowledge, creativity, and ethical action can coexist. They continue to influence individuals who aspire to leave meaningful contributions to society. In the modern era, the Nobel Prizes also face evolving challenges. Emerging fields, technological advances, and global crises require committees to adapt while remaining faithful to Nobel's principles. Nevertheless, the awards remain a benchmark of excellence, demonstrating that recognition can guide both innovation and moral responsibility. The foundation of Alfred Nobel's vision, a belief in the transformative power of knowledge used for good, remains as relevant today as it was over a century ago. Ultimately, the Nobel Prizes are more than awards. They are symbols of human aspiration, intellectual courage, and ethical reflection. They honor not only extraordinary achievement, but also the responsibility that comes with knowledge. Alfred Nobel's life, his inventions, his regrets, and his vision converge in this ongoing legacy, showing that one person's commitment to conscience and foresight can influence the course of human history for generations. Through his prizes, the world continues to celebrate the pursuit of understanding, creativity, and peace, ensuring that his ideals endure long after his own time. Alfred Nobel's life reminds us that innovation and conscience are inseparable. His vision created a global tradition of recognizing achievements that serve humanity, encouraging curiosity, creativity, and ethical responsibility. The Nobel Prizes continue to inspire scientists, writers, and peacemakers, shaping a world where knowledge is cell. It braided alongside moral reflection. From his early experiments to the careful planning of his will, Nobel's story is one of determination, foresight, and the desire to leave a meaningful legacy. His life teaches that every discovery carries responsibility, and that true influence comes from guiding knowledge toward a betterment of humanity. In this way, Alfred Nobel's ideals endure, inspiring generations to pursue progress with care, wisdom, and compassion.